What does happiness from within mean to you?
Well, I believe in myself and everybody, it starts from within, doesn't it? It's being at peace, and I know being at peace is a big thing that we tend to seek out, and I think it's achievable, but I think it requires a constant observations of where we are right now, a constant assessment of where we are right now, what we're doing, what we're saying. Even right now in this interaction, am I communicating peace? Am I being at peace? And I think there's a lot of healing in that, not just emotionally, spiritually, but also physically.
Calling all women on planet Earth. I'm coming down to help you wake the heck up. Let's go, beautiful.
Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to another ecstatic, beautiful episode of Happiness from Within. For those of that are new, welcome, welcome. My name is Jeanette, here, the host of Happiness from Within. I'm beyond ecstatic. I have another really incredible guest. His name is Dr. Neil Sherwood. His wife couldn't be with us here today, but that's okay. In the future, they will be here in LA in person. But I actually have him here in front of me. He is a doctor, and him and his wife have inspired millions because they're the founders of this really incredible institute called the Functional Medical Institute. Okay. They specialize in optimizing biological aging and empowering people to literally break free, you guys, from unnecessary medications, by using functional medicine. Okay. Innovative therapies. Basically, it's like a whole person wellness, you guys. Okay. And their patients, basically take control of their health. So I actually have Neil here, and he's going to be talking more about that. So go ahead and say hi, Neil.
Well, hello. And by the way, my wife's maiden name is Neil, and then so she goes by Neil Sherwood. So it's Mark and Michelle. So I'm Mark.
Oh, sorry. Duh.
No,
Totally
it's
messed that up,
awesome. I
didn't
mean,
I?
no, it's cool. It's all right. No worries.
Tell me your name one more time.
It's Mark, M-A-R-K, and then
Mark.
Sherwood.
You're Mark. Okay. Well,
Yes,
this just
ma'am.
goes to show that, we go with the flow here. It's all professional and happy and fun, but thank you for the correction.
It's all good. My wife's my better half anyway. She's more intelligent, more beautiful, and much more brilliant than I. So I'll be doing my best to stand in for her today.
Okay, perfect. Well, Mark, yeah, let's go ahead and jump in. What does happiness from within mean to you?
Well, I believe in myself and everybody, it starts from within, doesn't it? It's being at peace, and I know being at peace is a big thing that we tend to seek out, and I think it's achievable, but I think it requires a constant observations of where we are right now, a constant assessment of where we are right now, what we're doing, what we're saying. Even right now in this interaction, am I communicating peace? Am I being at peace? And I think there's a lot of healing in that, not just emotionally, spiritually, but also physically.
And that's beautiful. I love that. There's never any right or wrong answer with that. And I love what you were
Right.
saying about being at peace because I feel like our planet right now really needs that, especially all these changes happening with AI. It brings a lot of fear, but there's also a lot of positivity in it, right? It has its yin and its yang, its positives and negatives. So but yeah, no, that's great. I love that answer. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So let's go ahead and jump in. I just would love if you could share a little bit about yourself, how you got into the field of, wanting to be a, you know, doctor, doing the natural course. I mean, were you sick as a child or like is this something that runs in your family or but yeah, I'd just like to know a little bit more about you.
Well, my story and background on how I got here is very fascinating, and it's different than probably anybody really thinks. Here I am, currently a naturopathic doctor, and the question is, like, well, you must have had a health challenge or something like that. Well, the truth is, I was a police officer before I was a naturopathic doctor, and I was a police officer for 24 years, almost 2.5 decades, 10 years of which were on the SWAT team. And I saw a lot, did a lot, and participated in things and saw things that probably no person should see. I saw people, all kinds of people, good, bad, and middle, at the worst day of their life. Then, towards the last time of my career, last part, maybe the last 7 years or so, I was tasked with developing a wellness program. So I was transferred out to the police academy. I'd always been a guy that sort of maintained my physical shape and tried to eat right, and indeed was a champion natural bodybuilder, during my time there.
Wow.
But seemed like a natural, right? Seemed like I'm going to get this guy out here and he's going to figure it out. Well, the problem was there wasn't any template for that. And so I didn't know what I was doing. So I started doing my research and due diligence and checking out other police departments, and I couldn't find what I was looking for. Then I started doing some statistics, and I thought, well, do police officers have a long life? And there was one statistic that haunts me to this day because it hasn't changed since the time I discovered it in the early 2000s. And at that point, it was from a database that was 50 years old. Here's the stat. The average male police officer, after 20 years of service, lives to the average of 66 years of age. That's it. And that was true back in the 1960s. It was true in the early 2000s. And sad to say, I had done a recent interview and brought up that statistic, and my wife asked me, is it still true? And I just checked it, and it's still true.
Wow.
And that got me started on this idea. What is causing that? What is causing my brothers and sisters, the ones that I've, seen so much and done so much? What's causing them to die and not be able to enjoy this thing called retirement? And then I quickly realized as we developed the wellness program that, wellness was officer safety, granted, one and the same. But then I realized the same things that were affecting police officers were affecting all people. High stress, lack of sleep, hypervigilance, high cortisolism, if you will, poor nutrition, et cetera, et cetera. And it really grieved me to see mankind suffering. And that's the honest, transparent answer. And I went on a mission at that point. Believe it or not, my mission at that point as a police officer was to protect and serve. But that mission didn't change, in my mind at least, because it expanded. I'm still protecting people from themselves and do my best to serve mankind in that capacity. So that's where mine started. And I started studying at that point in time in my career. And I just perhaps like the movie Forrest Gump, who kept on running. I just kept on studying and I never stopped. And I still haven't stopped. And even to this day, the more I know, the more I realize I don't know. So I keep asking more and doing more. But that's what got me to this place I am today.
Wow. That's incredible. Wow, you have so much lifelong experience. That's incredible. Really, really incredible. But yeah, I would love to jump into what you guys tell me more about your guys' institute. I want to hear about what you guys do. You guys have a location correct me, in Florida and California, or talk a little bit about that. So,
We actually are multi-state licensed. So we actually are based in Tulsa, Oklahoma, right in the center of the country. But because of our reach and the ability to work with people remotely, we're able to see people from coast to coast. And that's pretty neat. But our mission is based upon the idea of combining conventional medicine treatments, with functional medicine, with, let's say, biohacking, and let's not leave out common sense, right? So the bottom line is with symptom-based conventional medicine, which my wife, who's a trained board certified osteopathic doctor, she's highly trained in that. And I am because I'm around her, it is all about symptoms. A group of symptoms, you go in, the doctor says, what are you experiencing? And of course, they don't really ask that question anymore because the nurses already asked that question. They're just reviewing and confirming what you said. And then they're looking for in the algorithmic thinking a medication that will be used to manage that symptom. There is zero discussion on what caused that, zero discussion on how you can prevent that. And you're exited out the door or shown the door as quickly as possible.
mm,
That doesn't solve problems. That manages disease processes. Statistically speaking, we are more diseased right now in our country than we've ever been in the history of mankind's existence.
yep,
And that is not okay. So when you do the different mindset shift that we do, we look upstream. I want to know what caused those symptoms. I want to find out what organ systems perhaps is dysfunctional so that the symptoms become irrelevant. Therefore, medication becomes further irrelevant. It's not even a discussion piece. And when people begin to get upstream healing, upstream systems correction and optimization, their functionality improves. Therefore, disease doesn't become a distraction, if you will. And they can go ahead and live their life. And we end up over the time with the methodology and the mindset of creating more health span, which hopefully decreases sick span, and therefore might increase lifespan. And as that transition continues, we've continued to learn various protocols and various processes where we have ways to test, at least the best we know now, our biological aging processes and speeds, the organ systems and functionality. And we're able to actually see how young we can live, how old. And it's quite enjoying when you see somebody light up, with peace, because they understand the idea of the holistic care model. It's physical, emotional, intellectual, spiritual, and yes, financial, because financial strain can stress anybody out. So it's really a five-fold process, and we work in all those areas, and we develop relationships, and people do get better.
That's incredible. No, I love it. I mean, I just share briefly, I mean, it's always very interesting talking to different people about health stuff because this isn't about me, this is about you guys, but I just wanted to share something if that's okay. Just 1 minute of my story is for those of that are new, but my audience knows that I had a very rare condition in my body for 20 years that I struggled with. Past 10 years, actually probably, yeah, 10 years was probably the hardest. Just rare condition in my body that just so many surgeries and I was doing exactly what the DRs told me. They would just did the best that they could because that's how they were trained, right? But I always knew in my heart and soul that there had to be like a natural way, right? I mean, I remember even getting medicines back in like 2009 delivered all the way from Indonesia because I was just refusing to take like medication,
Wow.
and I came to realize in 2020 actually what the root cause was, and I went back to see my doctor a few years ago. Actually did another follow-up just this last year and he's like, I don't think you have that condition anymore. I mean, just being able to like my leg, I could only bend it from like 30 degrees. I was able to still walk, but man, it was just my knee was just really sick, and that but it's part of the mission, I really see that from an empowerment aspect of it. It's just I came into this life and I decided to overcome this, right? And
Mm.
so, but now, I mean, to even sit like this, Mark, Dr. Mark, do you want me to call you Dr. Mark or Mark?
Mark's just fine. I appreciate it, though.
To
Thank
be
you.
able to, you're welcome. To be able to sit like this is a gift. I mean, I couldn't even, it's like I could sit like this, but I had to have like my legs elevated. So it was just like, battle after battle, but it had its mission and its course, and so I share that because, and I know you appreciate this because, what you guys are doing and like you're teaching people, through your methods of like, it really is possible. The body has an amazing way of healing itself. It really does. You can use food and there's different methods. I use, the medical medium protocols. That's just what helped me because I was dealing with chronic illness. Everybody can do whatever it works for them, but that's personally what's helped me, right? Focusing on the cleansing of the liver. But yeah, I just really wanted to share that because I knew you would appreciate that. But I think it's amazing what you guys are doing. I mean, you guys, helping so many people and inspiring millions, that says a lot. So I really want to honor that to you and your wife.
Well, I appreciate you sharing your story too. I had no idea, and you certainly would vouch for everything that I said being true. The body it's unfathomable, and I can't understand it. There's no way. I mean, I know a lot of stuff, but the more I know about the human body, the more I'm absolutely amazed. It will do things. It is a healing machine if given the right information, the right ideas, and put in the right environment. And information, ideas, and environments are things that we can do. All the things that you mentioned and more, they all matter. And it is incumbent upon us. I think it's an opportunity we have today because of your show and others and broadcasting. And you mentioned media, AI. We can spread a lot of information in a hurry. It can be wrong or it can be right. It can be harmful or it can be healing. And again, what we're talking about, without a question, it is healing.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to add to what you're saying, I've been going live every day on TikTok. It's an incredible platform just to reach so many people and it's just incredible. It's very sad how so many people are losing themselves, and I interact with a lot of people every day and I talk about a lot about like tapping into your intuition, right? And do these mini readings, but I tell people this is just like the surface, I like to look things because one of my gifts is I see things at a soul level, right? Really seeing like what's going on, the blockages, and then, but like people just really losing themselves, there's so many people suffering right now, and so it's like it's such a time right now of like people just want that community. The pandemic really did a hit on all of us on some level. It
Yeah,
doesn't
it
matter like
did.
how much money you were making. Everybody was affected mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. And that was actually one of my next questions I wanted to ask you to
Yeah.
transition into this was that like your clients and people that you're seeing, like, are you seeing like a rise in a lot of like people needing mental health?
I think that it's really become apparent. And you mentioned the key time in history, the 2020 timeframe, the pandemic time. That was a trigger.
Yeah,
That was an instigator of a lot of mental health issues because of things that we should have known ahead of time.
yeah,
Separation, isolation leads to domination. And I'm going to say that one more time. Separation is isolation leads to domination. And the domination part can be your thoughts. And a lonely thought can become a negative thought. When a lonely thought becomes a negative thought, those thoughts begin to dominate who you are. And if you don't have anybody to talk to, you don't have someone to share with, you have no one to do life with, you have no one to bare your soul to, that thing called depression and hopelessness can elevate to levels that you frankly can't handle or you believe you can't. And we saw that. And we saw health, not just mentally, but physically, um, spiritually, decline.
yeah.
And it started a process that I don't think we've got out of yet. Now, on one hand, I think because of that time, there's been conversation now and awareness of things at a level or decibel level that we haven't heard, at least in my lifetime. And I'm glad of that. But on the other hand, it caused irreparable harm, that situation in many, many lives across the world. Now, we're not talking life and death, we're talking just disastrous occurrences in people's lives. And so, I think that, which kind of to sum up that longer answer to a short question, there's something to personalized care rather than group templates. Because when you do personalized care, you're talking about the human being. We're talking right now. We have the ability to listen and communicate with the eyes, with the soul, as you're talking about.
Mm.
But if you just disregard that and start putting template care over people because that's group templates, that's what it works. This is what we do for our people. That's going to result, even if it's correct 10% of the time, it'll be incorrect 90% of the time. And I hope that that's caused us to learn some lessons over the course of time. I know in my wife and I's mindset, our journeys, it's helped us be a little more, probably a lot more intent on listening to really what a person is saying, not by what they're saying, but what we intuitively hear from them.
No, that's powerful what you shared. And it's true. I feel like people are definitely still recovering from that, being affected by that. It just, and you and your wife know this, it takes time to heal the body on so many different levels, mentally, physically, spiritually, trauma wise. It's just,
Yes.
so that's you said something very key with that, that's very, very key. Um, so yeah, my next question is like, what is your guys' goal as far as like, are you guys opening up? Are you guys opening up new locations? I know you guys do a lot of things also virtually and in person, but like, what do you guys see for yourself in the next, I don't know, 5, 10 years, expanding in your practice, right?
Well, that's a great question because we have talked about that recently. Here we are in 2026. We've had a lot of time to reflect on 2025 and
Mhm.
before. We had talked about even pre-2020 opening up different locations on each coast, perhaps Florida and California. And then when 2020 hit, of course, everything kind of shifted and people tended across all aspects of communication. There was a big lean at that moment in time, a shift to remote stuff. And so then we looked at that, should we, get a brick and mortar place over here, or should we over here? And it's still not out of the question. Um, but we have to have people to manage those persons, those locations. And it's been challenging for us because to do what we do, you have to almost unlearn what you've learned. So if someone comes in being a trained, nurse practitioner or a physician's assistant or even a clinician, other than, well, even if a naturally trained clinician, the way we view things is a little bit different
Yeah.
because we've done it a long time. And it's not like we've got it figured out. And I think that's a good thing for them,
Hmm.
but it's also a challenging thing for them because we never stopped checking out and verifying what we thought we know to be true,
Yeah.
realizing that what we were taught and thought was true probably wasn't true, at least a
Hmm.
good amount of it. So that unlearning process is difficult. So we've had a hard time finding perhaps people that want to do that. So what we've done, and we're still considering that, we've written a lot of books. We've got a brand new one coming out this calendar year, not out yet, but it's called Authentic Longevity. It is completed. It's
Wow.
going through all the the preparation process. We have our goal, or one of our goals in life is to become a New York Times bestseller. So that's going to be our goal for that book. And then we've also done some films, various inspirational, motivational type of films.
Wow.
And new one coming out this year is called Forgotten Fortune. And it's really about a guy with Alzheimer's and how it affects the family and how they sort of overcome that. And he becomes a hero. So we're trying to just do things to keep the inspiration, motivation, education process going. Um, because I mean, we got a good team, but it's like we're a two-man army here, going on.
That's incredible. Yeah,
Yeah,
actually my dad is struggling with that right now. So it's tough. I can't tell you, and I know you and your wife are very familiar with this because you guys are doctors, but it's just, people that I've talked to, I interact with a lot of people every day and every week, and I don't know, it's like, my have another friend and another friend. It's like they have family members that are struggling with that. It's just like it's very sad.
very.
It's very, very sad. It's very common these days. It's just like.
Yeah, and there's a lot of causes, I think, for that, a lot of contributing factors that can be prevented. And frankly, I hate the brain deterioration, losing your mind concept. I detest it with everything I am, and I want to see it go away. I don't see it as necessary. I just really don't. I think it can be stopped and prevented. But I think we've got to change the way we think about things and change the way we do quote unquote business.
Yeah, no, for sure. If you don't mind, I just was gonna ask, especially since you and your wife are doctors, have you ever heard of this book, Brain Saver by Anthony Williams?
Um, I'm not. I'll write it down though, and I am a reading
Oh, I think you
machine.
guys would be so inspired by this book. Honestly, it it's honestly one of the greatest books of all time. I mean, Medical Medium talks about like root causes of Alzheimer's and so many different things, but I think you would find it really inspirational. It's a two-part book series. It comes with this, and then it also has cleanses and recipes.
Oh, I'd be right up my alley. I've got it down on my
Yeah,
list. I'm going
please.
to
And
read the
I
book.
I really think you'll find it's very inspirational. It's very,
Yeah,
very amazing. But it's hard for me not to talk about Anthony Williams because he's completely changed my life. But
it's awesome. I think that there's a lot of things that we do that will save us a lot of sickness. And it's like, I don't understand why. Well, I probably do. There is a good reason why that's not mainstream because it challenges mainstream culture and it really challenges the income streams for many, many sources.
yeah, wow, it's amazing. So one of the things I'd like to do, I feel like we're almost wrapping up here. I think I'm feeling almost good. I feel really good. We've been talking about a lot of really good things. Um, what I want to do, what I like to do before we end the podcast, I just want to open up the floor and just anything you would like to share from your heart and soul. There's no right or wrong answer, just anything you feel the audience would like to hear, and I'll give you the floor again.
Well, again, thank you for the opportunity. I really had a good time with our conversation. You're obviously uh, very kind-hearted, and people cannot help but notice that. I mean, there's a sincerity there, and I just really want to appreciate that. You know, I think for our audience today, and just I think it boils down to a couple different things. One is to re-engineer your belief system that you can, because a lot of times people don't think they can. They get in this pattern that they think they're never going to get out of. There's no answer, and they start these finite statements, always, never, that kind of thing, and it becomes a pattern of who they are. We got to begin to believe again. We've got to begin to understand there's a way. And I don't want to be so simple as saying where there's a will, there's a way. But the will matches up when the faith catches up. And the faith has got to lead the way. You've got to have that statement of faith that keeps you going. You know, I'm going to overcome. I'm going to get back up. With that said, that leads me kind of to that second area. You're going to get knocked down. You're going to have some tough days. You're going to have some rough days, but you cannot quit. You got to get back up, and that's hard. That's really hard. But to do the hard things over and over again makes those hard things easier. And the hard things don't overcome you. Before you know it, the hard things do become easy, and you're ready for some other hard challenges. But the more you fight that, and the more you come back, and the more you get back up over the course of time, that shapes the belief that you can. So it's a big old circle going back to number one. And I think that's what people need to hear today in our world, because there's so much chaos, upheaval, uncertainty, anxiety, that we need to hear that all that stuff that is talked, those two aspects, belief and then overcoming setbacks, that those are available to each of us. You don't need a doctor for those. You don't really need a friend for those. You need to look yourself right in the mirror and say, you know what? Those are mine, and take ownership of those things, because you've got them in you. And if that encourages one person a day, or 100, or 1,000, it pretty much made my day. So I'll leave it right there.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. I really felt your heart there. And that's what this podcast is all about, touching people's hearts and souls at a very deep level through interviews. So thank you for that.
You're
But I just
welcome.
really want to thank you for being a guest here on Happiness from Within. And we look forward to having you and your wife in the future, hopefully
Yeah.
here in LA and in person. So, but again, I want to thank you so much. And I just wish you a wonderful, fabulous day. And don't leave yet. I'm just recording. Thank you guys so much for joining. Remember to smile because you're worthy. And I'll see you guys on the next episode. Thank you so much. Have a great day.